Hello, everyone. This is Robert, and thank you for tuning into Station Square. And I know that it's the day before the 4th of July, so I just want to wish you happy independence and all that good stuff because I will be out of commission for this weekend because I'm going on vacation, which I really need. Yeah, just after all this insanity and what have you. But you don't want to get into any of the real world nonsense, whatever that entails. Thank you so much for tuning in once again. But we have a special guest in the corner. We have Rachel Kimsey, who you might know for live action stuff like The Young and the Restless. She's done voiceover for Superwoman and for a lot of like DC and all these other properties. But I'm just listing off her stuff. I'm just gonna let her take the reign and just, discuss her body of work and we'll just get to questions and, just do the usual stuff. So, Rachel, how are you doing on this lovely Wednesday morning? Or
I
Thursday morning, I'm sorry.
It's Thursday. It is. I haven't been able to keep track of what day of the week it is either. Summer is like that. I'm well. I'm
Yeah.
doing good. I'm building a new chicken coop and
Nice.
trying to maintain my sanity when the sun goes down at 9 o'clock at night, and it's good.
Oh yeah, because you're a mother and you gotta take care of the family.
Yeah,
So I
there's
can't imagine how that's like.
there's always a lot going on. The thing that's great about it is I built the majority of my career before having kids, and so now with them, it's that much more fun to get to share everything that we're creating with them as they come along, and for them to be able to see what it is that we do. And it makes, I got to be honest, making video games and cartoons is three times more fun knowing that someday my kids might get to watch them and play them, which is a blast.
Yeah, of course, because I know that with you doing all of this work and then it's kind of fun when your kids would just hear you on the television and just be like, "Is that mommy?"
It's so funny. The thing that's interesting is, and this is good for any prospective voice actor out there, kids don't really understand that there's a human being behind the voice until they're like 7. Like the occasional kid will before that or after that, but mine kind of get it because they've like sat in the room with us while we're talking and they're watching something. But even then, it's still just like, he sounds a lot like Daddy. I was like, he does sound a lot like Daddy. And so part of the fun is watching the their eyes light up as they start to get the hang of it. Particularly when we watch things not that we made, but that friends made, because this industry is so welcoming and the people in voiceover are so wonderful that we when we watch something like, Rise of Ultraman, and we're like, that's Christopher. That's our friend Christopher. Who's that? And then Christopher comes by to like hang out with the kids, and we're like, this is Ultraman. And they're like, oh, and they're like putting it together. And then they ask him to play baseball with them. And it's amazing.
It is super funny because you're just like, "Oh wow, no, this actually is Chris." What? Then
Yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
it's
just
great because they're like, well,
normal.
he must be great at baseball too. We're like, Christopher is pretty good at baseball, but the fact that his character in the movie plays baseball does not necessarily imply that the human being doing the voice plays. We have a lot of Magneto toys around our house. We're like, Dad can't actually use magnetism. Believe me, I wish sometimes I had a lasso of truth, but we don't have those things. But it's fun to watch them kind of wrap their heads around it and also think back to the cartoons that I watched when I was a kid and realizing now as an adult, 40 years later or whatever, going, oh my gosh, I was in the same room as Frank Welker. Who was, oh, that was Fred. It's still Fred. And we were in the same room together. Oh, like getting to build relationships with people that I watched on those shows growing up, and checking that 7-year-old part of my brain that's like all of a sudden registering the human being behind the voice again, it's a blast, and it kind of adds a whole new level to the art form all over again in appreciating it in through new eyes.
Yeah. So, what were some of the shows or cartoons that you grew up watching, if you don't mind me asking?
You know what's so funny? I was very specifically not allowed to watch a lot of television growing up. I was
Okay.
a PBS kid, so I got to watch Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow was my obsession, Electric Company. But once a week, we would have piano lessons. And during piano lessons, while I waited for my brother's piano lessons, I got to watch whatever the cartoon stack was that day. So it was like Thundercats and G.I. Joe and Robotech and like I remember the moment when like Disney dominated the afternoon and there was like Gummy Bears and Chippendales Rescue Rangers and what was another one? Oh, DuckTales. Oh my gosh, I loved DuckTales. Um, and even though like I was a little bit older for those cartoons, because they were cartoons we were allowed to watch, those were like seminal properties because we just weren't allowed to watch all that much. And so it's kind of funny for me catching up now as an adult on a bunch of the stuff that I didn't get to have. Like the 80s experience of like Saturday morning cartoons was one I knew my friends got to have, but my 80s experience was Saturday morning chores. And so the fact that this became where my career went still kind of makes me giggle that I'm like, I'm making the contraband shows we weren't allowed to watch back then.
Oh yeah. I mean, I still remember all of those Disney stuff with, yeah, because it was back when it was called the Disney Afternoon and we had shows like DuckTales and Chip and Dale, Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, Tailspin. Man, those were the
Oh
days.
yeah, Tailspin. That was a great one. And the fact that now I know a lot of the people who were making those, that is just, it
Yeah.
blows my mind. And it also speaks to the incredible longevity that's possible in this kind of work that, you know, this isn't like being on a soap opera where you have to stay young and beautiful the whole time, right? Like this is something where you, as long as you keep your chops up and keep your work fresh, this is some place where you can stay for a really long time, which as an actor is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. And I also have to ask, how did you meet, if you don't mind sharing the story, where did you, the two of you, like you and your husband, how did you cross paths?
Well, it's because of this career, actually. We met at our agency Christmas party. Each of us is absolutely convinced we saw the other one first. I'm sure that I walked up to him. He says he walked up to me, but it was at our Christmas party, and even our agent was like, "Oh yeah, you two should talk. This makes sense." And we were both like, "Yeah, we got it. Thanks." And it was all a very fast stone rolling downhill from there, which is it was pretty amazing. I wouldn't have my husband or my kids without my voiceover career, and that feels really lucky.
Yeah. And for those that are curious, who's your husband? The name?
My husband, I'm his biggest fan, is Matthew Watterson. He is
Okay.
known for playing characters like Magneto in X-Men 97, and he's the Doom guy. He's Conan the Barbarian. He's Phil on The Croods, which my kids love. Um, he does a ton of like cool motion capture characters. What's really fun is that so far we've been on a few properties together, and every time I live and he dies, and every time I've been a good guy and he's been a bad guy. So we're waiting to actually someday be on the same team. So far, it's never happened. And we've actually never worked together live before either. But someday we'll actually work together, and someday we'll both survive the same project. But thus far, no dice.
Yeah, it's so funny because you know people like Yuri Lowenthal and Tara Platt where they're just in a lot of different projects together, either as like, you know, they're teammates or antagonists. And it's just really funny how Yuri would just would often be the hero and then Tara would just kind of be like the the supporting the sidekick or villain or just whoever, or it could just be vice versa. So it's just really funny how with a lot of the stuff that you do get to do together, it's like, oh, we're either not on the same project or we're kind of playing opposite each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's fun because like my husband played Etrigan in a DC property that I wasn't in, but he met the people that we were working with because I was on one before, and so some of it is just like getting to know some of the same people, it builds that kind of relationship where they remember to think of you for an opportunity, which is also really lucky, because he books all of his own work on his own talent. But it's always nice to remember each other. We're in the room to be like, hey, are you looking for a tall, strikingly handsome man with a beautiful British accent? I got a guy, which is nice.
Yep, small world.
Yep.
Yeah, and after you grew up watching, a lot of the Disney shows, and I gotta mention this because, okay, I know you were on a different podcast. Does the name Amber ring a bell to you?
I love Amber. She's such a sweetheart.
Yeah, so you mentioned Frank Welker. If you mentioned Frank to her, she would just, oh my God, her face would light up and she would just go on like a really, how can I put this? It's like, okay, just imagine you're on a sugar high, but it's just like, oh my gosh, Frank Welker is so amazing. Oh, he was out, just literally everything,
One of
just
those
going on and on. Yeah.
he that no matter how big a fan you are, you're not a big enough fan. Like he is that superlative, and he does things that I genuinely don't understand how a person like,
Nobody
I've seen
can.
that video of him growling into the garbage can to be
Yes, for the Lion King. Yeah, yeah.
I've seen it dozens of times and I still don't understand how it works. Like I've watched it and I'm like, I don't know how you do that. It's amazing. But it's like being in the room with D. Bradley Baker when he's making his cricket. And I'm like, I've seen you do it. I've watched your mouth and I still don't understand it, which doesn't mean that I don't try to do it many times a week. And I
Hmm.
can't. But it's, there are some of those people that they are the reason that this career is as specialized as it is, because if you've got that superpower, I mean, you're breathing rarefied air, and I bow down to every one of them. It's just amazing.
Yeah. I just, to this day, I just don't really know because I know I mean, look, it's not that they don't put in the work, okay? But it's like at the end of the day, I would just watch that video of Frank Welker just in with the garbage can, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
Just how? Or like with D. Bradley Baker, because he could just play, both of them can just play, talking humans, but then they could just switch to like say a whole because there was a video where Frank was at the zoo and then he was doing like monkeys, hippos, lions, and it just blows my mind. It really
Well,
does.
and the thing that's really cool about it, and again, this is great for anybody that's at home practicing, is what's really important to remember about voiceover is it's about the acting, right? It's about
Exactly.
connecting with the
Yeah.
script, it's about connecting with the other characters, it's about making really personal choices. And if you have the tissues, right? If you have the bone structure where you can create specialized sounds, like D has talked a number of times about how when he first got to LA, he didn't listen to music in his car. I think I have the story right. He didn't listen to music in his car. He listened to CDs of like animal sounds. And when he was alone in his car driving in terrible LA traffic, he just practiced making those sounds. And like that's we talk about like the 1,000 hours of practice, right? Like that's the thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice that those specialists put into it. But here's what's great. There's nothing stopping anyone else from listening to animal sounds when they drive around in their car either. Like you can be that guy if you want to put in that time. Very few people are born just naturally being able to mimic more than a handful of things. But if you can mimic some things and you want to put in that time, the only thing stopping you is deciding to do it. And what I love about those examples is it feels like magic to those of us watching, but I know that it's the result of just putting in the work over and over and over again. And the great part is the work is joyful. So if you love it and you're doing that work, then it's there for you. And voiceover isn't about doing a million different accents or a million different voices, because that actually comes up a lot less than you'd expect. But if you want to drive around in your car and learn Welsh for a month, and drive around in your car and work on Italian for a month, and drive around in your car and learn Moroccan accents for a month, like, and then you have that in your bag when they need somebody to be able to do the audiobook or the character or the the friend that aligns with any of those voices, then you have that, and then you've created for yourself this skill set that is undeniable. And I love that about this work, that you can decide what kind of a specialist you want to be, and the only thing between you and that skill is the time you're willing to put into it. And it's there, and it's available to you if you want it.
Exactly. So I wanted to know from you, like being a part of the business for so many years, what would you say was something that it's a lesson that you've learned along the way where you've done all these shows, like doing on camera and then doing voiceover? Was there something invaluable that you would like to share with the audience from your many years of just being in this industry and just learning from some of the working with so many of the greats,
I think the
just
two most valuable things that I've learned is, if you want this, don't stop. It's not probably going to look like you dream of today. But if you want this, don't stop. When I first imagined being a professional actor, I wanted to do Shakespeare live on stage every day for the rest of my life. Guess what I've never done professionally? But I made this movie and I was like, oh, it turns out making movies is really fun. And then I had a chance to do daytime television, which was this amazing education in getting to go and work on camera every day of the week. And like, there's nothing like that kind of repetition, putting in the miles. And then I got to stumble into voiceover and find this way to be totally creative and let go of the self-consciousness that comes when people are looking at you and telling you that your hair is the wrong color, or you're too tall or too short or too skinny or too fat. And over time, my career has changed directions, but it's all gone in pursuit of what lights me up as being an actor and creating. So if you want it, don't stop. Just keep going and acknowledge that what it looks like in your mind may not be what it looks like 30 years from now. But if you're still in it 30 years from now, that's because you kept going. And when you look around, the people who are there are the people who stuck around. And the other thing that I'm going to say is, the biggest obstacle, this has been the hardest lesson and the one I've had to relearn over and over. The biggest obstacle between you and your career is your self-consciousness, and it always will be. If you go in trying to please a casting director, trying to get it right, trying to solve a problem when you don't know what the problem is, you will always get in your own way. If you go in and you drop the veil and you go in with power and confidence in the choices that you've made, you don't always get the job, but you always have made art, and people want to work with artists. And so the people that you enjoy watching and listening to the most are the people who bring the art. And the people who get hired over and over because they bring joy to the work they're doing are the people who bring art. And if you want to enjoy that career that you don't leave, that you stick around for, then you need to bring your artist soul to it and stop trying to be what you think somebody wants you to be, because who you are is good enough. And not only that, who you truly are is the most unique and interesting version of anyone that could be, because no one else can be you. So stick around and let go of self-consciousness. They are hard lessons, but they are the ones that matter.
oh oh yeah. I think that probably would be a nice little lesson to close out. That would be like that one closing thought that I usually end out every episode on. So it's nice that we're getting it out early. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, it kind of also is a good thing too because yeah, for a lot of us when we get self-conscious, we kind of start to we kind of self-sabotage ourselves in a way, like we second guess everything, like we overthink, and it's not fun. Trust
Yeah.
me. As somebody who is like, I know it's like, oh, well, we could say this now, but, a lot of us kind of go through our own little battles of insecurity and stuff, and that's also not really fun to deal with.
Absolutely. And I've told this story before, but I think it's a big part of what really crystallized it for me is, when I was auditioning for Wonder Woman, it was one of the most important characters for me growing up. And So I was terrified. And so I auditioned for every other character in the email that I had gotten for the show. And I left Wonder Woman to the last because it was so scary. And I still had a little bit of that voice in my head that was like, oh, you have to do it right. But I was like, I don't know what Wonder Woman's voice sounds like. Everybody knows what the voice of Batman sounds like. It sounds like Kevin Conroy, right?
Yeah.
But I was like, what does Wonder Woman sound like? And I remember making the conscious decision. I know I've talked about this before, but I remember making the conscious decision of, I guess Wonder Woman sounds like what I feel like when I feel like Wonder Woman. Or Wonder Woman sounds like what I sound like when I feel like Wonder Woman. And so I took that into the booth. And the thing that's so interesting about that is I booked that job. And when I got the job and showed up, they were like, oh, yeah, we never thought of it like this. And they told me that they started writing for me and the way that I was performing it. And they were like, do what you do. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing that's different because I didn't try to do something different. What I tried to do was what felt authentic to me. And so the hardest note I ever got was like, just put your Wonder Woman spin on it. I was like, I don't know what my spin is because my spin is just me, how I see it. And it also goes to show how important it is to come in with your own point of view and to come in with your own power. Because I'm sure they had amazing auditions from people who turned in incredible stuff, and they just happened to pick me. And I just got lucky that I was the one that they wanted that day. But when I look back and I go, oh, the only thing that could have gotten in my way for getting one of the most important jobs of my career to me personally was trying to do it right instead of trying to do it my way. Maybe what's most important for me forever is to try to do it my way instead of doing it right. Because I've never been upset at a job that I didn't get, that I loved the work I did. I've never felt bad about it. I've been able to walk away going, oh, I had a great time. And when they pick somebody else, I go, oh, cool. Okay, that's what you picked. Because it doesn't feel like they didn't pick me. It feels like they chose somebody else. And that's okay. When I go in and I try to do it right and I try to give them what they want and they pick someone else, that's when it's easy to feel rejected. Because I tried so hard to do it right for you, right? And when you're trying to serve someone else instead of serve the artist inside of you, it's a lot harder to live with the choices that you've made. So stick around and let go of self-consciousness. Do it for the artist in you.
Exactly. That's also another that's a pretty fire lesson, not gonna lie.
It was big for me too.
Yeah. So talking about some of your live action stuff because you've done soap operas like Young and the Restless, Day of Our Lives, Don't Look Under the Bed. So just talking about some of your work and doing on camera live action, would you say that is also a lot of fun, that it also it helped you grow just as a creator? It just really helped you, I guess, grow your acting chops and just something that you could add to your like set of tools that you want to use for you as just being a creator in general? Would you say that it was
Absolutely.
also helpful for you alongside your journey? Yeah.
I mean, like I said, so much of how we imagine our future is based on what we've experienced, right? And so when I started to dream, I dreamed of doing plays. And then when I started to work, I was working in small films and in television. And I started to see that. It wasn't until after that that it occurred to me to even think about looking at voiceover. And so for me, the end goal for my acting career was always with my face and my body, right? On camera or on stage. Um, and there's a chemistry when you're in the room with other actors that's unmatched. And it's such an exciting experience. And like on Justice League Action, we actually got to do that. And we were with other actors every episode. And all of us agree that even though some of those people have done before and done since, like really exciting stuff, the chemistry of being in the room together is part of what made it such a spectacular experience. So the same thing happens when, my very first professional job ever was Don't Look Under the Bed. And here's the cool thing about Don't Look Under the Bed, right? I am still friends with Erin Chambers, who played the lead in Don't Look Under the Bed. We still chat regularly. The first time I went to the Magic Castle, I walked in and there was Steve Valentine. And I was like, oh my gosh, you don't remember me, but I will never forget you because you and I played the same character in a movie. And he's like 6'7" and British and amazing and so talented. And he was like, wait, that movie. And so for, 25 years later, 20 years later, whatever, not to wildly date myself, I got to reconnect with him. When I was on Justice League Action, one day, Stephen Tobolowsky walked in and I was like, when I was doing my first movie ever, I was on your project. And now here I am and I'm the Justice League and you're coming in to be on this project with me. And he gave me some really kind advice when I was like literally on day one actor on Don't Look Under the Bed. And he was so excited to see me still around, 20 years later and working together on this new project. Like part of the beauty of sticking around is those connections that keep coming back. Like that very first project, I have now either worked with or interacted with a huge majority of those performers since then. And when I was doing NCIS, which for me was a really exciting experience because I come from a military family, so it's always exciting for me to get to represent that life in any way. It's my very tiny way of honoring my family who makes that great sacrifice, right? The director of my episode came up and he just goes, hold on, look at this. And talks to one of the PAs. And he looks at me and he says, so I directed Mr. Boogedy, and I almost collapsed into the ground because Mr. Boogedy was one of my favorite Disney Sunday afternoon movies that I watched with my family growing up. He's like, there's only two reactions to that. Either people are like, what are you talking about? Or they dissolve like you just did. So for me to grow up sitting next to my parents, imagining this future that seemed impossible of working in film and TV, and then working with the director of one of those movies on an episode of NCIS was so exciting because it felt like all these different little threads of my life coming back together and tying up. And when I auditioned for that episode of NCIS, I remember distinctly that I braided my hair and tucked it in a very specific way that I learned from my grandfather, who was an Air Force general, who he said, this is the way that women keep their hair tucked in according to regulations. And so I got to honor him in that audition. And it was part of what made me feel powerful in the room to be able to give the audition that made me feel like I was doing something meaningful. All of these little threads about your real life and who you really are come together to create the work that you're doing. And so all of it feeds it. All of the theater led to the film, led to the TV, led to the voiceover. All of it feeds, and that's why you just can't give up. You've got to follow the roads where they take you, because all of it builds on who you are and the stories that you've told and the parts that you build within your own life. And for me, there's nothing more rewarding than getting to create art that touches on parts of my life that are important to me or my family, and being able to shine a light on those things.
Yeah, amen to that. Let me see. And then talking about some of your voiceover stuff just real quick, because you playing Wonder Woman was kind of like something that really means a lot to you, but you've also did other video games like Call of Duty, Legend of Heroes, and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to ask you, because you talked a little bit about why this character means so much to you. So how would you say that it was kind of like this big trajectory in your career in a way, just playing like a dream role that you've kind of been, that's kind of been on the back of your mind since you were like really little, and just finally getting to play her.
You know what's even more wild about that?
Yeah, share, go on.
It's the first cartoon I've ever done.
Wow.
The first animation role I ever booked, ever, was Wonder Woman. Nothing
Congrats.
is impossible. But that's the thing. Nothing is impossible. Nothing is impossible. Stick around. Like, is that common? No.
No.
Did it, immediately mean that I got to be the lead in everything I auditioned for since then? No. But I got to do it. And I've gotten some wonderful work and worked with incredible people as a result. Like, the thing, generally speaking, like, you build, one thing leads to another, right? But that was my first animation role ever. It was not my first acting role, but it was my first animation role. The first video game that I ever did was doing like additional voices on Call of Duty Ghosts, and the directors of those sessions were so incredibly kind and generous to me that everything that I learned from Keith Aram that day, I have used on every video game I've done since. Having done additional voices on Ghosts gave me the opportunity to work on the next Call of Duty and the next. And then when I got to do Black Ops 3, where I got to be the lead of, the female lead of the campaign, it was it was thrilling, and it was all of those things coming together. It was all of the times that I had worked with military weapons with my with my brothers who taught me how to use them, and all of the times that we crept through the woods, pretending to be soldiers together, added to the things that I had learned doing just additional voices on games before, and all the stunt work that I had done when I wanted to do, sword and shield stuff in college. And all of that stuff came together for me to be able to do Black Ops. And you can't separate the way your life builds these stories from the places that you go. And it's incredible. It's so thrilling um, be a part of the world of Persona, and getting to be a part of um oh my gosh, my brain just went totally blank. Like Trails of Cold Steel and things like that happened because of the relationships that I built with the Arams, and when Val Aram was like, "Hey, I think you might be great at this. Do you want to come in and read on this stuff?" And so I got to join a whole new genre and a whole new world, and there's more of that style that's coming that I can't talk about. And all of that comes from just sticking around and seeing what I can do next. I always joke that when I used to do stunt work, no one ever hired me to do a job that I knew how to do. Like my stunt career was marked by always getting hired to do something I'd never done before, but I decided I would give it a try. And sometimes I feel like my acting career is kind of like that too, where you just go in with faith and go, I haven't done this before, but I believe that I can if I trust the people around me. And video games have absolutely been like that. It turns out that coaching CrossFit and teaching yoga for years made it possible for me to do a 4-hour session of callouts in a war video game and my voice not getting hurt. Cool. There's a superpower that I had that I didn't know other people didn't have. But I walked into the room and I was like, I got this. Because I could yell at athletes for 6 hours a day without getting worn out. I can certainly yell at a microphone for 4 hours. I'm going to be fine. Right? Nobody says go learn to be a CrossFit coach and go be a weightlifting coach so that you can be a better voice actor. But it made a difference for me. You never know where your life might take you.
Yeah, I kind of gotta ask about Persona just really quick because I know that's like a huge video game that it especially kind of it is just one of those because it's kind of funny because we have so many games or like shows or stuff like that that just kind of really exploded after COVID, like with the pandemic and everything. And I know Persona is definitely still is a very large franchise. So getting to do Persona is kind of like, man, it's that I know that I have to I have to say that I don't know if it's something that you were super familiar with when you got when you got to be involved with the franchise, but yeah, getting to, be in Persona is kind of like, and knowing with the fan base that it has, it's like, man, it's like you said, you just never know where this career can take you, man. You just never
Yeah.
know. Yeah,
I always feel so lucky to be part of something that
yeah.
people really care about. And sometimes it's thrilling when it's something that I know a lot about. And sometimes it's even more exciting when I realize that I get to learn about a whole new style and group and fan base by diving into it. I wasn't familiar with it when I got in, except that I knew that a bunch of my dear friends had been a part of it. And so I was excited to be a part of something they were doing. And, I have a very small part in that world, but I feel so lucky to be a part of it because it's so important to so many people. And that is a really special experience. Being able to be connected to something that matters to others is incalculable because it means that I get to be a part of their lives. And that is unique and it's special and I love it.
Yeah. And I know that we technically kind of closed out with some advice on getting into the business, but if you want to share your socials and just talk about some of your coaching or just anything else that you want to promote, go ahead.
I'm easy to find. I'm Rachel Kimsey I'm at Rachel Kimsey on Threads and Instagram, and I even recently joined TikTok, and I'm terrible at it, but I'm trying to figure it out.
I kind
I
of
think
deleted TikTok
theoretically I'm
recently,
still on
so
Facebook.
yeah.
But I'm also I do private coaching, and I'm probably going to be opening group classes in the fall because I've been an acting teacher for over a decade, and I love the way that people learn when they learn together. So, getting to open up that opportunity will be really fun. So, if anybody's interested in that, just my website is rachelkimsey.com. You can send me a message there, and we'll put you on a list to look into that. We're having a great time.
Yeah, and do you have any closing thoughts, or would you like to close this out as Wonder Woman or any?
I guess what I would love to say is if there's something that matters to you, you are not alone. And it is okay to pour your heart and soul into that thing. And it is okay that if something is important to you, to decide that it can matter to other people too. What you love is valuable because you love it, and nobody gets to tell you that it isn't important. So stick with it and hold on to it tight because you are valuable, and what you love makes the world a better place to be. And right now, in my opinion, we could all use a lot more love and a lot more connection and a lot more looking out for each other. So look out for the things you love and the people who love it with you, because that's what's going to keep us all safer.
Amen. So, on behalf of myself, Robert Jackson, and Rachel Kimsey, thank you for tuning into Station Square. Be sure to stick around for more episodes coming soon. Happy 4th of July, and until next time, take care, stay cool, stay awesome, and much love. Oh, and congrats to SAG-AFTRA for. We're kind of sort of pending an agreement, but it is suspended for right now. So, that I just want to give a quick shout out to all the actors, Nava, and so on and so forth. Protect us from AI. Yeah.
Human voices for everything. Real humans,
Ex-
real work.
exactly. On that note, I'll see you all next time and have a good day. Have a lovely weekend ahead.
Thanks so much.
Bye. Thanks.